Hey there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you're watching this. It's your math helper for lesson 10, and this lesson's about multiplying decimal fractions uh, with tenths by multi-digit whole numbers. We've worked on multiplying, and now we're basically just adding in decimal fractions. And there's just a couple things to think about when we're doing that, but ultimately this shouldn't be anything too majorly groundbreaking or earth-shattering here. This is not something that's going to totally alter what it is we're doing. This is just going to throw one more thing to think about, and you're good to go. So we're going to do a couple problems here together, and then you should be on your way. No worries. Let's begin. Let's begin with something like this. Whenever we're doing something like this, it's especially handy to round and estimate, round the factors and estimate our product. So if we round that, 43 becomes 40. This is rounding. 40 and 2 and 4 tenths. You can just round it up to 2, and that gets me it gets me 80. So a reasonable product is going to be somewhere around 80. If I look at it, I rounded them down, so it's probably going to be slightly above 80, just because that's the way it works. So what we're going to do is, when we do this, we're going to take a look at 43, but I'm gonna rename this 2 and 4 tenths. I'm going to rename it into something that's a little bit easier for me to deal with. I'm just going to rename it. We're just going to call it 24 tenths. Okay. Because that's what it is, right? It's 24 tenths. That's what I have. Well, 24 tenths is easier for me to deal with. So we're going to multiply 43 times 24 tenths. So we're going to have 43 units of 24 tenths. And then I'm just going to go about doing it like I normally would. If we take and make a area model here, and I decompose these numbers. If I decompose 24 tenths, I can do that by having 20 tenths and 4 tenths, right? And I can just decompose my 43 here as normal. I would have 40 and I would have 3. And so, excuse me. So each way I'm going here, when I multiply, I'm multiplying by tenths. This is 20 tenths and this is 4 tenths. So my answers here are all going to be in tenths. 3 times 20 tenths, or 3 times 2 is 6. And I add my 0. That's 60. That's tenths. Okay, 60 tenths. Because these here, I should mark this and keep in mind that these are tenths. And then 3 and 4 is 12. That's 12 tenths. If I add these up going this way, I get 72 tenths. Right? And here I go 4 and 2 is 8. And it's 40 and 20, that would be 800, because I have my 2 zeros, 800 tenths, because it's 40 times 20 tenths. And then 40 times 4 times 4 is 16, plus my 0, 160 tenths. 800 plus 160 leaves me with 960, and it's 960 tenths, okay? And by keeping everything in tenths right now, it's going to allow me to understand what my final product is, right? So if we come up here and we multiply this and do this as a standard algorithm, and I do 24 and 43, remember 24 is my tenths, right? 3 and 4, that's 12, and carry my 1, 12. 3 and 2 is 6, plus 1 would be 72. And 40 times 4, well, that's 160. And 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 would be 9. I can see I have my 72 tenths right here, and I have my 960 tenths right here. So I know I'm on track. I know everything's looking pretty good. Let me just add this up then. 2, 7, and 6 would be 13. Carry my 1. 9, 1 is 10. So I have 1,302 tenths. Okay, now, so what is this? Yeah, I got a spoon. What is this in standard form? Well, when I think about this, I think about tenths. I think about this digit right here is going to be in tenths place. And if this is in my tenths place, then my decimal goes right here. So my answer would be 103 and 2 tenths, and that is my product right there. Okay. So when we did this and we labeled still things as tenths, it allowed me to keep the tenths there. It allowed me to not have to worry about my decimal place until at the very end, when till at the very end, when I figured out then I had to just convert when I had to convert 1032 tenths back into a standard form. So this way has its benefits because I don't have to worry about placing a decimal point in there until the end. Okay, so when we're doing this, though, there is another way. There's a process that is just slightly different. I don't know that it's any easier or quicker, but let's talk about it. Let's do this product here, or let's do this problem. 3 5/10 times 42, and let's do a rounding estimate. I forgot to check my estimate on the last one. My product was, what was it, 1032, and my estimate was 800. So that's close. It's within a few hundred, a couple hundred. My estimate here, 3 5/10. Let's round up to 4, and 42. Let's round down to 40, and 40 times 4 would be 160. And so that's what I'm looking for. A product is somewhere around there. There's two ways. One, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my area model the way I did on the last problem, because that allows me to check my products and make sure everything's all good. If I do that, then I'm turning this 35. I'm going to rename that into 35, or 3 5/10. I'm going to rename that as 35/10, because that allows me to break it out, and I can decompose that into 30 5/10. Right, and my 42 would be 40 and 2, and then 2 times 3 is 6, that would be 60, and 2 and 5 is 10, and 40 and 30, or 4 and 3, is 12, plus 2 zeros, and 4 and 5 is, nope, not 5, I'm just thinking 5, 4 and 5 would be 20, plus my extra 0. 60, let's add them up this way. 60 and 10 would be 70. And 1200 and 200 would be 1400. And these are, of course, tenths. If I go ahead and I add those up, I get 1470 tenths. And I know that would put my decimal place there if I went ahead and added that back in. So you can see how I can do that, and I can double check my answers here. But what I want to get onto is the idea of multiplying by 10 and then dividing by 10. Real quick, real simple here. If I have like 3 times 2 equals 6, right? And if I do 3 times 2 times 10 and then divide that same thing by 10, I'm still getting my product of 6, right? And the reason that works is because I just did it and then I basically undid it, being that division is the opposite of multiplication. So the point here of doing that small little exercise is to show you that, let's say we have our product, or sorry, say we have our problem, and this is it. We're going to put it in standard algorithm. If I want to get this decimal place and just get it out of there so I don't have to worry about it, I know that I can make this bigger. In order for me to move my decimal place out to the right, I'm just going to multiply that by 10, right? So if I multiply that by 10, that moves that out of there, okay? So that I don't have to worry about my decimal. 3 5/10 times 10 would be 35, right? Awesome. So now let's solve. Let's do like we would normally do. 2 and 5 is 10, and and 2 and 3 is 6 plus 1 is 7. Checking out with my 70 here. Yep, everything checks out. 40 and 5. 40 times 5 is 200. So 200. And 40 times 3, or 4 times 3, is 12, plus 2 is 14. and that checks out 1400. So I add these up and I get 1470. Now where I multiplied by 10 here, now I need to go ahead and divide by 10 in order to do it just the opposite and get it back to where my to get to my product. And what I did was I walked it out, right? The decimal was there and I walked it out 1. So now the decimal is here and I'm going to walk it back 1. Okay, so my decimal goes there. My final product of 147 is actually pretty close to 160, and so I know that that's a reasonable product for me. So we have 2 different ways of doing something. Let's use an example here, and we're just going to do both of them, and then you guys will be on your way. Okay, let's do this problem: 15 and 6/10 times 73. All right, and let's go ahead and round. This would be 16, and yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just do this up to 20. Do this up to 20, and do this down to 70. And 7 times 2 is 14. I'm looking for a product of around 1400. Okay, that's an estimate. No, that's an exact. This is an estimate. This is my estimate here, 14. So we're just going to do this. Just going to do this 2 ways. Sound great? Over here, I'm going to do the tenths. So I have tenths, and if I do that, I have 156 tenths, don't I? And I'm going to multiply that by 73. Over here, if I was doing it where I was multiplying, I would do 15.6, and I would multiply that by 10 over here. So then I would walk out my decimal place and not have to worry about it. Hi, leave. See you later, buddy. And 156 and 73. Okay. Either way, the way you're looking at it is you're multiplying 156 by 73, right? Okay. So 6 times 3 is 18. 18. So I'm going to do. I'll just do 1 just to keep it simple here. 3 times 6 is 18, and 5 times 3 is 15 plus 1 is 16. And 3 and 1 is 3 plus 1 is 4. 70 times 6 is 420. I'm going to scratch these guys off. 420. And 7 and 5 is 35 plus 4 is 39. And 7 and 1 is 7 plus 3 is 10. What did I do wrong? Oh, sorry. And I have 8. And I have 6, 7, 8. And I have 9 and 4 is 13. And I have 1, 1. And that is tenths. Okay? So now if I know that's tenths, and then this guy here is in my tenths place when I'm writing this out. 1, 1, 3, 8. There's my decimal, 8. Over here, we're going to do the exact same thing, okay? 3 and 6 is 18. 3 and 5 is 15 plus 1 is 16. 3 and 1 is 3 plus 1 is 4. Sorry, I'm looking over here. Like, did that match up? But I have this 1 here, but that 1 was from when I added the 9 and the 4, and I carried my 1. 7 and 6 is 420 or 42. 7 and 6 is 42, but it's a 70. So 420. 7 and 5 is 35 plus 9 is 939. And 7 and 1 is 7 plus 3 is 10. See, I got 8. I got 8. I got 13. I got 1, and I got 1. Now, I multiplied by 10, so here I'm dividing by 10. When I did this, I walked it out 1, so now I have to walk it back in 1, and you see we still get the same product. Well, that's not a 7. 1, 1, 3, 8, and 8 tenths, okay? So 2 ways of looking at it. It's kind of up to you as to which one makes more sense and which one seems easier, which one keeps things more clearly. But understand that, you know, when we're doing this, you're still just doing the same old 1 digit times 1 digit multiplication. And as long as you're keeping things straight in your rows, and as long as you're understanding that as you move over, you're also moving over down here on the bottom, you're also moving your products over, you should be good to go. And hopefully this will be a breeze. All right. So I hope you guys have a great night. and bring questions or post questions in the comments, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And yeah, have a nice night. Bye.